Hey guys! Promise it's not a long intro this time. This is part 2 of the Kanto region of our creepy trip across Japan, and just want to say there's another so-called paranormal video at the end of this episode. If you didn't think the last one was creepy, this one definitely is. Alright, let's get started. Location 3. Shitodo no Iwaya. Shitodo no Iwaya is a cave located in both Manazuru town and Yawata town in Kanagawa prefecture. It's one of Japan's most well-known haunted locations. Many people may have at least heard the name. While it's also known as a power spot and popular tourist destination, various paranormal phenomena have been reported at this site. It's a cave that's said to be where Minamoto no Yoritomo hid after he was defeated by the Taira clan in 1180. The name Shitodo no Iwaya comes from an incident during Yoritomo's escape. When his pursuers arrived, a flock of small birds, believed to be Shitodo, an old name for birds like yellow buntings or reed buntings, suddenly flew out of the cave. Thinking no one was hiding there, the soldiers left, allowing Yoritomo to remain undiscovered. The cave in Manazuru was once located by the sea during Yoritomo's time. However, the land was uplifted during the Great Kanto earthquake that happened in 1923, bringing the cave to its current elevation. Back then, it is said the cave stretched about 130 meters, 430 feet deep. Over time, waves eroded the cave, and by the late Edo period, it had shrunk to around 3 meters wide and 11 meters deep, or 10 feet wide and 36 feet deep. During wartime, much of the stone was quarried from the cave, reducing it further to the size it is today. Inside this cave are over 20 stone Buddhist statues known as the Doi Sugiyama Kannon statue group. These stone figures were gifted by local people during the Edo period as offerings for the souls of deceased relatives. While the sight of so many statues in one place can be quiet and solemn, it also gives off an eerie vibe. Perhaps one of the reasons why this site has gained a reputation as a haunted location. Some of the ghost stories and supernatural rumors said to occur at Shitodo no Iwaya are as follows. Number 1. One of the most famous legends says that if you find 3 headless statues among the many stone figures inside the cave, you will die shortly after. There are rumors that some who actually counted and found them were later involved in accidents. Whether true or not, it might be best not to go around counting them. Number 2. Among the many stone statues, one is said to have an angry expression and appears to glare at visitors. Some even claim this glaring figure is none other than Minamoto no Yoritomo himself, filled with resentment after his defeat. Number 3. On the path to Shitodo no Iwaya, there's a plaza lined with Jizo statues or guardian deities. Around the benches in that plaza, a woman's ghost is said to have been sighted. Some say she also appears in front of the stone statues within the cave as though wandering the area in unrest. Number 4. There are reports of a Jizo statue that is present when entering the area but is missing when leaving. Was it a prank by a spirit, or perhaps a bad omen of something yet to come? Number 5. Many consider Shitodo no Iwaya to be the number 1 most terrifying haunted spot in Kanagawa. The cave is located deep in the mountains and the area becomes extremely dark and dangerous at night. Reaching the innermost parts also requires a decent amount of stamina. If you're thinking of going, it's not a place for kimodameshi enthusiasts or for ghost hunters. Proceed only if you're truly prepared, both mentally and physically. Have you ever heard of Shitodo no Iwaya? It's a famous haunted spot. Chances are you've at least heard the name before. Last year, I visited Shitodo no Iwaya alone. But at the time, I was gravely mistaken about something. This is something I only learned recently, but there are actually 2 caves with the name Shitodo no Iwaya. Both locations claim to be the cave where Yoritomo hid, but to this day, no one knows which one is the real one. The first is in Yawata town. This is the one that's widely known as a haunted site. It's lined with countless Jizo statues and filled with a damp, heavy atmosphere. It certainly lives up to its reputation as a power spot. The second is in Manazuru town. This one is by the sea with just a small cave mouth visible, and to be honest, it's a bit of a letdown in terms of appearance. And so I ended up at the cave in Manazuru. And thanks to that, I experienced a strange and mysterious event that I'm about to tell you. That night, I arrived at the Shitodo no Iwaya in Manazuru only to feel deeply disappointed. What I found there was just a small person-sized hall with a lattice door covering the entrance. I was expecting to see rows of Jizo statues, or perhaps even encounter the curse of spotting 3 headless Jizos in a row, but in this cave, there wasn't a single statue in sight. Disappointed, I decided to just leave when I heard something, like a low moan, coming from inside the cave. I peered into it. It was too dark to see anything. I turned on my phone's flashlight and shone it into the hole. That's when I locked eyes with a man inside. I fell back as if pushed by an invisible force, or at least that's what it felt like. It scared me so much and my heart was beating so fast, getting my body ready for the fight or flight mode. I let out a scream, and when I'd croaked out the last bit of breath I had in my lungs, silence returned. There was no one else around, and all I could hear was the distant roar of motorcycles, probably a biker gang far off in the hills. I thought about hopping on my own bike and getting the hell out of there. But wasn't this the exact kind of experience I'd been hoping would happen? I changed my mind and pointed the flashlight into the hole once more. I was standing about 3 meters away from the entrance. The man was still there. He was naked, crouched down with his arms wrapped around his knees and biting the nail of his thumb. He was bald and he was so skinny I could see his bones protruding. Good evening, I called out. The man let out a low moan. Was he unable to speak? But his eyes were sharp, brimming with life and intensity. What are you doing in there? It was no use. He couldn't hold a conversation. I glanced at the iron bars covering the cave entrance. How did he even get inside? I wanted to get closer and check whether the gate was locked. Are you hungry? I don't know why I asked that, but something about the pitiful state of his body stirred my sympathy. But he didn't respond. I lifted the light again to take another look at the man. My eyes went wide. He was gone. There was no one inside the cave anymore. Startled, I approached the entrance and tried to open the gate, but as expected, it was locked tight. It didn't budge. That was when true terror surged through me. I leapt onto my motorcycle and tore off down the path I'd come. Through the loud wind blowing past my ears, I swear I could still hear the man's moaning. Thinking back now, maybe what I saw was the very embodiment of Yoritomo's ancient fear. That moaning man, maybe he was the residual terror and despair Yoritomo had felt just before the birds flew out of the cave and saved him. Maybe those emotions had somehow taken form and settled in that cave, waiting. Of course, this is all just my imagination. In reality, I have absolutely no idea what I really saw. But one thing's for sure, I never expected to have such a terrifying encounter in a place that wasn't even supposed to be haunted. And honestly, I regret going. Because ever since that night, I've been haunted. constantly by the sound of that moaning voice that only starts when the sun goes down. Location 4. Ojaga Lake. Ojaga-ike, or Ojaga Lake, located in Togane City, Chiba Prefecture, is a well-known spot for bass fishing, but many people also know it as a haunted location. There are numerous eerie stories and supernatural experiences reported there. It's an irrigation reservoir and was constructed over a period of 10 years during the early Edo period. Thanks to its moderate size, well-maintained walking trails, and fishing opportunities, the area is often bustling on weekends with walkers and anglers. It gained nationwide recognition as a haunted site after being featured on the TV show Tonnelzu no Minasan no Okage desu, specifically in the segment A Haunted Tour with Takako Gibo. This is a show I used to watch religiously whenever I came back to Japan for a visit over summer break. And once again, we hear the name Aiko Gibo, the famous psychic who was featured on many paranormal TV shows in the past. If you need a refresher, please watch part 1 of this entire series. So, during filming at Ojaga-ike, a ghost was allegedly caught on camera, which prompted a flood of viewer responses and catapulted the location into the spotlight as a haunted place. I tried to find the actual clip on YouTube, but I couldn't, which is really unfortunate. The most well-known paranormal phenomenon that's been reported is the sound of a woman softly weeping. Others have reported seeing the silhouette of a woman floating above the water. But Ojaga-ike may have been famous for ghost stories even before it appeared on TV. One particularly sad legend seems to have laid the foundation. A young woman fell in love with a samurai who worked as an official, but because of their differences in social class, their love was forbidden. In despair, the woman threw herself into the lake and died. Her vengeful spirit turned into a white snake and is said to still dwell in the pond. This legend may explain why many of the ghost sightings involve female spirits. It is also one theory for how the pond got its name Ojaga-ike, which includes the word snake, although other theories also exist. There's also a strange tale that says that if you walk 7.5 laps around the pond, a giant snake will appear. According to the legend, a girl from a nearby village would wander out to the pond at night in a trance. Her elderly parents would bring her home each time, but one night she vanished, leaving only her sandals behind. In a panic, her parents searched the area and walked around the pond 7 times. On the 8th lap, a giant snake appeared from the water. This story further strengthens the association between Ojaga-ike, women, and serpents. Finally, here's a tragic tale that doesn't involve any snakes. A young wife living near the pond worked hard at her loom, and the sound of her weaving was so beautiful that it became famous in the village. But her jealous mother-in-law constantly criticized her, saying her weaving was poor. Devastated, the wife threw herself into the pond. Since then, the sound of weaving and a woman weeping can be heard at night near the pond. As you can see, the legends of Ojaga-ike are rich with stories involving women and snakes, sorrow, and supernatural elements. This is a story that my uncle's co-worker experienced. He was an avid outdoorsman, and one day he went camping with some friends at a place called Ojaga-ike in Chiba Prefecture. In the middle of the night, he suddenly woke up to the sound of something rustling outside the tent, as if someone was rummaging through his things. That alone was unsettling, but since he was used to camping, he quickly assumed it was just a wild animal scavenging for leftovers from dinner. However, after a short while, the animal abruptly stopped and let out a startled cry as if something had frightened it, and the man heard it running off. Wondering what had scared it off, he happened to look up and saw that something was sitting on top of the tent. just as he realized this, a black hand came through the roof of the tent and grabbed his arm. He was so terrified he couldn't even scream, and the shock of being grabbed made him lose consciousness. When he woke up, it was morning, and the shadow on top of the tent had vanished. He wasted no time explaining what had happened to his friends, who had all slept soundly right next to him. But none of them believed him. He then rolled up his sleeves to see if he had any marks, and lo and behold, there were hand-shaped bruises as if someone had grabbed him tightly, clearly visible on both of his arms. Apparently, my uncle's co-worker didn't know about any of the rumors or legends surrounding this place when he decided to camp there. So, for any of you who like to go camping, I highly recommend checking if your destination has a reputation of being haunted. This place, you will definitely experience something here. Online, it's often described as not that scary, but for me, it was terrifying. I'll never go back there again. I know a lot of people have visited the spot, but there are certain conditions if you want to experience something truly paranormal. First, park your car in the lot near the public restroom. Then enter from the left path. Important note, speaking from experience, if you go with a large group, nothing will happen. Go with as few people as possible. As you walk, you'll see a gazebo in less than 10 minutes. That place is where the paranormal activity really happens. Better put, nothing will happen beyond it, 99% of the time. When we took a photo there, my friend's neck, arms and face, and even my head were gone. There's also a rumor that you can hear a woman sobbing, and it's true, but to be more accurate, it sounded like a young girl. I'd never experienced anything paranormal in my life, but even I heard it, and it was really clear. And I accidentally took a photo with an apparition in it. I could clearly see a face between some tree branches. It was deathly white and smiling and looked like a little girl. I got instant goosebumps and didn't have a good feeling about it, so I showed it to a spiritually sensitive friend a few days later. I asked him why she was smiling, and he said, "I think she's saying, 'Thank you for coming.'" I deleted the photo immediately. Location 5. Yawata no Yabushirazu. Yawata no Yabushirazu literally translates to the thicket unknown of Yawata. It's the local name for a small forested area in Ichikawa City, Chiba Prefecture. It has long been considered a forbidden zone and is famous for the legend that once you step inside, you can never come out again, referred to as kamikakushi in Japanese. Kamikakushi is a Japanese term literally meaning hidden by the kami, which are gods or spirits, and is often translated as spirited away. It refers to the unexplained disappearance of a person, often attributed to the supernatural realm. The concept is deeply rooted in Japanese folklore and is famously featured in the Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away. While less prevalent in modern society due to advancements in search and rescue and a decline in belief in the supernatural, the concept of kamikakushi still holds cultural significance and is used to describe inexplicable disappearances. According to an information board set up by Ichikawa City, the area is referred to as Shirazu Yawata no Mori, the unknown forest of Yawata, and is also known by other names such as Shirazu no Mori, unknown forest, and Shirazu Yabu, unknown thicket. Today, only one corner of the site within the grounds of Shirazu Mori Shrine is accessible to the public. The thicket is only about 18 meters deep and 18 meters wide, 60 feet by 60 feet, so it's not large enough to physically get lost in. The thicket is now fenced off, preventing anyone from entering. Facing the road, there is a small shrine building next to which stands a stone monument inscribed with Shirazu Yawata no Mori, built in 1857. The reason the area became forbidden remains uncertain, and there's no definitive explanation, but locals have traditionally viewed the area with awe and reverence, and even today, entering the thicket is considered taboo. According to one local resident, while passing near the grove late at night, they suddenly saw a blue light emerging from within. The light seemed to move as if trying to lure them in. Frightened, the person fled immediately and later described the experience as a fear so intense it felt like my heart stopped. There is also a story of a worker who once tried to cut the bamboo, only to be struck with a high fever of unknown cause, dying a few days later. It was around the end of autumn. I work at a social welfare facility, and on a business trip, I was sent to attend a training seminar held in Chiba Prefecture. Not being much of a traveler, I found it a bit of a hassle, but I did feel a bit excited at the chance to go somewhere far for the first time in a while. Since I was all the way there, I decided to make a little detour before catching the bullet train home. My destination was a haunted spot well known on the internet, the forbidden place known as Yawata no Yabushirazu, right in the middle of the city. A bamboo grove, just 18 square meters or 60 square feet, quietly tucked beside National Route 14, surrounded by residential neighborhoods. I had seen this grove mentioned online a few times, so I set out with a casual sightseeing mood, hopping trains toward the nearest station. Once you step into this grove, you can never come back out. Such is the legend of this place, passed down since the Edo period and gaining fame as a place tied to mysterious vanishings and kamikakushi stories. When I arrived at my destination, it was already starting to turn dark. There was a slight tinge of fear, but it was overshadowed by my excitement as I took in the scene. The grove was enclosed by tombstone-like stone pillars, and you could walk around the entire thing in just a few minutes. On one side of the grove, there was a grey torii gate marking the entrance for worship, engraved with the name Shirazumori Shrine. I passed under the gate and stepped into the small shrine area, which was only a few meters in size. Even though the grove is forbidden, visiting the shrine is allowed, meaning it's permitted to step this far in. Around the grove, there were the usual city lights from cars and houses, but once I was inside the grounds, the only source of light was the flashlight on my phone. I turned it on and began to shine the dim beam around the shrine. At the back of the grounds stood a small but solemn structure, the shrine itself. Surrounding it were stone monuments engraved with the same name as on the torii. I aimed my light through a gap between the stone pillars and into the grove. Inside, bamboo stalks crisscrossed in all directions, blocking my view and scattering the light from my phone. On the ground, I could see countless rotting bamboo stalks, fallen and decaying into the soil. The rustling of bamboo leaves drowned out the sound of passing cars, and from time to time I could hear the faint chirping of insects ticking softly in the still air. The bamboo was so thick it blocked out almost all light, but from the way the light filtered through the gaps, it seemed there was a clearing in the center of the grove, though I couldn't see it clearly from where I stood. So, this is it? I hadn't expected to encounter a ghost or have a terrifying supernatural experience, but I still felt a little disappointed. And then, inside me, something began to stir. Curiosity, swelling with each passing second. I had come all this way after all. According to the legend, it was taboo to step into the grove. It was a place no one should enter, but now my curiosity was starting to outweigh the warning. That morbid fascination, the desire to see something I shouldn't. When I weighed them against each other, legend versus temptation, I found myself thinking, just one step. Yeah, just one. That's all I allowed myself to take into the forbidden grove known as Yawata no Yabushirazu. And at that moment, I felt a gaze, a piercing stare. It was like being impaled by a sharp blade stabbed clean through. I turned back toward the shrine behind me. There was nothing there. For a few seconds, though it felt longer, I kept staring at the direction I had felt the gaze from, toward the shrine. Wait. Something moved next to the stone monument. A black shadow swayed slightly, like it had just stirred, and then the black shadow revealed itself. It was humanoid. It was something black in the form of a human, but it wasn't a person.
What the hell is that?
A chill ran down my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and began to tingle. A cold sensation crept over both my shoulders. A strange, indescribable discomfort welled up in the back of my throat. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was so dry that I couldn't. My bladder automatically contracted, and I suddenly got the urge to pee. I was screaming inside, telling myself to not look at the black figure and to get out of there, but I couldn't look away, and I couldn't move my legs. I desperately fought against my own body, like lifting a dozen weights, and I finally managed to blink. Just once. It was only a split second, but when my eyes opened up again, the shadow was gone, and at the same time, I had full control of my body again. I could swallow. I could taste. I looked around. The orange-yellow lights of cars driving along National Route 14 came into view, and I quickly left. Back inside the bullet train, I sat with a can of beer in hand, gazing blankly at the nightscape rushing by at 270 kilometers, or 168 miles per hour.
What the hell was that thing?
I tried not to think about it, but after sitting in my seat for nearly 2 hours, it was impossible not to replay everything that had happened. Suddenly, the train entered a tunnel and the city lights outside my window vanished, replaced by the black walls of the tunnel. And then I noticed it. In the bottom right corner of the window by my seat was a black handprint. I stared at it absent-mindedly for a few seconds, not thinking much of it. But then, it moved. It slid slowly toward the center of the window right before my eyes, slowly, at the creeping pace of an insect. This was no handprint. It was someone or something's hand, and it was slowly sliding across the glass towards me. Its fingers were stretched wide, pressing against the window, clinging like a gecko, each movement deliberate and unnatural. I screamed and fell off my seat, landing hard on the floor. Pain shot through my tailbone, but I didn't care. Passengers around me turned their heads, curious and confused, staring at me as I sat there on the floor, shaking. I turned my gaze back to the window, but the hand was gone. I told the conductor what had happened, and he looked at me as if I were crazy, but he let me switch seats. With loud music blasting through my headphones, I clenched my eyes shut, trying to block out all sensations, shutting myself off from everything around me. Some time passed and I was suddenly jolted awake by a tap on my shoulder. I must have dozed off without realizing. The person who had tapped me was the conductor. He'd come to wake me since we had just arrived at the final stop. I bowed to thank him, then stepped off the train onto the station platform. I was finally back. The familiar scenery of my hometown. It felt good and I exhaled deeply with relief. Leaving the station, I began walking toward home. That's when I happened to glance up at the giant glass window of the station building. There, a large, pitch-black shadow appeared to be clinging to it. But surely, that was just my imagination. Location 6. Arai-san's house. Arai-san's house is an abandoned house located on the shore of Lake Kanna in Kamitama Town, Saitama Prefecture. It is well known locally as a haunted spot, but its details are not clearly understood. Though there is no official nameplate, it is believed to have come to be called Arai-san's house because a gravestone behind the property is engraved with Arai family. There is a terrifying rumor that a crazed father killed his entire family with an axe and then committed suicide in the bathroom, but no official records have been found, so its credibility is low. The building has deteriorated significantly, leaving only the skeletal frame standing. Personal belongings of the residents were left inside the ruins, but many were taken as trophies by people who came for dares or challenges, so barely anything remains now. After taking something, people reportedly receive calls from unknown numbers with a short message saying,
"Give it back."
while some calls are silent and end abruptly. These calls supposedly stop only when the taken items are returned. Simply discarding or burning the items doesn't stop anything. Besides phone calls, other strange experiences reported include unexplained noises inside the home, footsteps heard when no one is present, and dreams featuring a person in a white kimono. Due to these experiences, taking items is considered very dangerous. But the better-known paranormal phenomena is the voice that responds to you. Apparently, if you call out, "Is anyone there?" or announce that you're coming into the house, you'll hear a voice saying yes or welcome. Many reports mention that when groups visit, everyone hears the voice simultaneously, making it unlikely to be a hallucination or just a vivid imagination. Furthermore, when people try to locate the source, the voice can be heard not only inside the house, but also among the surrounding trees and coming from behind you. The voice descriptions differ, with some claiming it sounds like a deep male voice and others describing it as a hoarse female voice. It's unclear whose spirit it is or if multiple entities are involved, and although the voice is clearly heard on site, recordings often capture nothing, adding to the mystery and fascination. There have also been sightings of a ghost of a headless child. Witnesses claim it often appears standing near the back of the house or in the yard, glowing faintly white. Some witnesses say it stands still and disappears when approached. Some people report strange experiences when they get home, such as developing a high fever, experiencing sleep paralysis, and seeing the ghost of the headless child in their dreams, feeling as if it was trying to communicate something. This area was affected by the construction of the Shimokubo Dam in 1959, which forced many settlements to be submerged or relocated. The Onita settlement, where Arai-san's house is located, was abandoned after residents moved away. Many moved to towns, but some houses and graveyards were left behind, which contributed to rumors of abandoned haunted houses. Some believe that the villagers who were submerged under the lake still search for their homes, and at night sobbing can be heard from around. This obviously doesn't make sense because everyone moved away, but people like to dream up all kinds of theories, don't they? The concentration of paranormal rumors at Arai-san's house is also partly due to Lake Kanna's reputation, where the dam was built, of being a suicide hotspot. Several people have apparently jumped off the bridge nearby to their deaths. Due to the dam, the lake is deep, and some say remnants of submerged buildings remain underwater. There are many stories of seeing human shapes floating on the lake's surface and seeing white figures reaching into the water. These ghost stories and rumors combine to create a more eerie atmosphere around Arai-san's house. Two summers ago, when I was 18, my friends and I visited a haunted spot in Saitama Prefecture known as Arai-san's house. Located near Lake Kanna, the place was the embodiment of eeriness. The house was completely abandoned, its roof and walls had collapsed, leaving behind nothing but a rotting skeletal frame. With no windows or doors and only silence reigning over the scene, it felt as if time itself had stopped. Near the house stood some old weathered gravestones, and in the distance the sound of a waterfall echoed. The damp air and the unnaturally loud sound of rushing water wrapped the area in a chilling atmosphere. One of my friends said lightheartedly,
"Do you really think something's gonna happen here?"
But deep down, we could all feel the tension. As we approached the abandoned house, a cold wind clung to our bodies, bringing with it an unnatural chill. Peering into the house's skeletal remains, I felt as though something, was watching us. We exchanged glances, but said nothing, silently stepping into the structure. Inside, it was completely decayed that even the floor had crumbled down to bare earth. While we explored the house, one of our friends who had wandered off to check out the nearby waterfall came running back, pale-faced, saying there was someone by the waterfall. We looked in the direction he pointed, but none of us saw anything. Still, the seriousness in his eyes couldn't be ignored, so we all headed toward the falls together. As we walked, the sound of the gushing water grew louder and louder. Gradually, our conversation died and we continued in silence. The closer we got, the more it felt like it was calling to us, as if luring us in. And the moment we reached the edge, we all saw it. A black shadow stood silently before the waterfall. It had a humanoid shape, but it clearly wasn't a person. We all froze, rooted to the spot. The shadow appeared to be staring into the falls, yet we all sensed that it was also aware of us and watching us at the same time. One of my friends, his voice trembling, whispered,
"We need to leave now."
None of us actually replied to him, but we all turned around and fled the scene, heading back toward Arai-san's house. Once in the car, not a single word was spoken. Even though we'd all seen the same thing, none of us wanted to talk about it. The image of that black figure in front of the waterfall burned into our corneas and we couldn't unsee it. Later that night, one of my friends called in a panic. Something strange was happening at his house. He said the front door began rattling violently in the middle of the night, even though no one was there. Strange sounds came from the entryway, and he kept feeling as though someone was watching him. He told us nothing like that had ever happened before, and his voice was trembling. We immediately felt that what we saw at Arai-san's house must have something to do with it. The shadow at the waterfall, it may have been trying to tell us something. And worse, perhaps it had followed him home. My friend eventually visited a temple and had a purification ritual performed, and the strange happenings stopped. But from that day on, none of us ever set foot near Arai-san's house again. We have no doubt that something is there. It's not just a random abandoned house. The shadow that appeared near the waterfall may still be there, so to anyone who considers visiting that place, please be careful. There are certain things in life that you mustn't disturb. Alright guys, this is the end of our trip across the Kanto region. I think we have a few more regions to explore before this trip comes to an end. Now, here's the promised so-called paranormal clip. Let me know what you guys think, but this is the background. In an episode of the program, Let's Stay in the Countryside, that aired in 2004, a mysterious face was captured on camera. The guest was Yoshikaze Ebisu, and the chosen location was Mount Osore. Now, Mount Osore is famous as a sacred site and is associated with spirits. He stayed at an old woman's house who lived alone.
うまいよこのラーメン。本当に。すごく美味しいです。
本当、よかったお世辞で今で言う。
ラーメン屋での。
there's a head peeking out from the doorway in the back. Now, there are people who argue that it's one of the camera crew members, but just take a look at the face. Doesn't something seem off about it? And how come we can't see the neck or shoulders? It seems like the head is just floating there and staring back at the camera. Is this real or not? Again, I think it's real, but let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. See you again in the next video. Cheers.